What's up you guys, it's Brandon from BlazeTech here, and in today's video we're going to be going over how you should be going about building your first gaming PC, as I know it's a bit of a daunting process because there's a billion different motherboards, a billion different CPUs, a billion different GPUs and power supplies and RAM sticks and LED lights, and there's a whole bunch of things. I'm pretty much going to break it down into 5 key points that you might need to build your first gaming PC in case you might be struggling, so you can take from that and build upon it as you wish. So if you enjoyed today's video, remember to smash like on the video as well as subscribe, tap the notification bell to know when I am live next, and if I speak at all funnily during this video, it's because I'm pretty sure my wisdom teeth are coming out, so that's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is, I suppose. But we'll get into it and we'll talk about building a first gaming PC. So when it comes to making a gaming PC or just a PC in general, in case you might want it for editing or whatnot, there are some main things that you need. So you need a case, you need a motherboard, you need a CPU that supports that motherboard, you need to know what generation it is as well for your motherboard and CPU so they are compatible. You need a power supply that supports them, and you need a GPU for your graphics that goes along with your power supply, so you haven't got too little power in your power supply, because that does happen sometimes if you have all this awesome gear. So you got a high-end CPU, you got a high-end motherboard, you got a high-end graphics card, and you skimped out on the power supply, so now it's just not going to work that well. So there's that, and depending if you're going AMD or you're going Intel, which are the two competitors against each other in the CPU market. Intel comes with a okay looking stock cooler, so you can use that if you don't want to overclock. However, if you want to overclock, I recommend you buying a aftermarket CPU cooler, because then they help with cooling. So for example, I have the Corsair Hyper 212 Evo. I'll throw a picture up screen somewhere, and that does a good job. I want to eventually change to a Corsair H10i or a Corsair, I believe, H20, which is for dual fans and pump. But that's besides the point. That's more technical stuff which we're not going to go into. However, if you are buying Intel, I recommend that you do buy a aftermarket or a third-party stock cooler. Reason being is because I believe the latest gen, so 9th gen, 10th gen and 11th gen that's coming out this hopefully quarter, I'm pretty sure they're not including stock coolers, so you have to go out and buy your own cooler, which is unfortunate, but it helps with cooling, but then at the same time you got an additional cost. And last but not least, you need RAM. So I recommend 3600 RAM because that's a high capacity. It's good for gaming, it's good for doing multitasking. So if you got multiple, let's say, Chrome tabs open, you got Sony Vegas or Adobe Premiere or Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, any of those high intensity softwares, a high capacity RAM or high capacity megahertz RAM will help with that, as well as the CPU, whether that be AMD or Intel. And depending on rendering, for example, you do have a CUDA version, which is only for video cards instead of AMD cards. And with CUDA, it does use your graphics processing power to render a video instead of using your Intel or AMD chip. If you have an AMD graphics card, then you cannot use CUDA processing, as CUDA is for NVIDIA cards. So you get a whole bunch of list of things that you need to get. So counting them all up, the case, CPU, GPU, RAM, motherboard, power supply, graphics card. You need 7 fundamental things altogether. Anything extra, like and a stock cooler or a aftermarket cooler in case it's not included with your CPU. So 8 things in total, and without these 8 things, the stuff ain't gonna run that well. So You need those 8 things, and let's break down on what you do and don't need. So really depending on your budget, for a first gaming PC, for example, if you are a student or whatever and you don't have much money, or you have a part-time job, or you just don't get many shifts or anything like that, pretty much a good gaming computer to run the latest games and to run at okay settings, so probably medium to high settings, depending on how new the game is, and graphics, etc. Probably, I'd say $800 should get you by just fine. Now this isn't totally speccing out everything. If you're gonna spec out everything, it's probably gonna be like $3,000 US, and it's gonna be expensive, or about 4,000, 5,000 Australian dollars, and that's probably getting unnecessary stuff. So what you want to do is you want to figure out your budget, depending on what you're comfortable with, and depending if your opinion, if it's worth your return on investment or ROI. Now this doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, you get your money back, but you get your time worth out of building this computer. Like, going to play games is great, going to make a video editing machine is great, just make sure it's worth it. And I don't want to be responsible for you building a gaming PC or whatever, then being like, yeah, no, it's not worth my money. And I was like, why'd you get it? Don't do that. But figure out your budget, and if you want to leave a comment or whatever, I'll try and help you as best I can. And if you're living in the US, just say that's US money or Canadian money or European money, and I'll probably try and fundle something together for you. Now also on the lines of budgeting, you're also going to want to probably save money on a build if you're on a budget. So the way you save money is you got, let's say you got 2 different motherboards, for example. Some motherboards are crazy expensive and they're $1,000+. You got ones which are, let's say they're both 10th gen and they support the same 10th gen CPU of Intel, for example. You got a MSI motherboard that's $300, and then you got another MSI motherboard that's $1,000. Now, what's the difference? The difference is pretty much the more money you pay might be for added details, like you got extra Wi-Fi, you got a extra PCIe Express port, you got a miniature fan cooling it, you got more USB slots, you got 2 Ethernet ports instead of 1 Ethernet port. What else would there be? Enhanced audio or enhanced microphone capabilities on the back of the motherboard. What else? How many heat sinks that are on the motherboard to keep it cooler? And there's a whole bunch of different things. Look at your situation and be like, okay, well, how many USB slots do I need? How many SSD slots do I need? How many SATA ports do I need? How many PCI Express lanes do I need? Am I gonna have 1 graphics card or 2 graphics cards? If this motherboard a micro ATX, which is small, a ATX, then you have full ATX, so small, medium and large. Which one fits my build? Which one fits all the components that I'm gonna need? Which one supports my RAM? Which one supports my Intel? Which one supports my CPU? The CPU one's pretty simple, because you got AMD boards and you got Intel boards, and it just, if you're looking at a board, it says which one it's compatible with, because you can't buy an Intel board and put an AMD chip on it. Otherwise, stuff's gonna go haywire, and at the end of the day, you're gonna break something, which I don't want, because breaking stuff on a computer is expensive. I don't like fixing it. So, pretty much, look at your motherboard, see what you need. If you're just starting off and you're not using stuff like cameras, microphones, audio compressors, 2 monitors and extra stuff like that, I honestly think you would be fine with a motherboard that just has a keyboard, USB input, a mouse input, HDMI or DisplayPort, Ethernet, and every computer and every computer case has audio built in the front or built in the back, so it's not an additional cost, but you probably just need 4 things and that's it. But in my situation, as I got dongles, I got a audio compressor, I got a microphone that goes in the audio compressor, I got a keyboard that takes up 2 USB slots, I got a camera, I charge my Apple Watch, I charge my what else did I charge? I charge my AirPods. I use pretty much all my USB slots, and if not, I need more. So look at your situation and go forward from there. So that's pretty much a big rant about the motherboard situation. Now, graphics cards. Depending if you're going with AMD, honestly, I don't know much about AMD, so I'm not going to speak about it. But I'm biased towards NVIDIA. So with NVIDIA, these days, even though a lot of cards are out of stock, what you're going to probably want to get is since there's the 20 series that is still, 2000 series that is now cheaper, because the 3000 series is out, you would probably be fine with a 2060 or 2070. I don't really remember what price it is right now, but it's not too bad and it's going to run all your games just flawlessly, and that's a good beginner budget friendly GPU. So when it comes to the CPU, I recommend nowadays, if you're going Intel, I would say just get an i7, because games are becoming more CPU intensive now. i5s were probably good maybe like a year ago, I would say. But now people are trying to multitask and this and that, so I recommend getting i7. However, if you're on a really tight budget, i5s are still pretty good if you're just doing gaming. But if you're doing anything like video editing, Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, Adobe Illustrator, high intensity stuff like that, I recommend going for an i7. And if you're on a budget, just stay away from an i9, so way too expensive. But no, other than that, so that's motherboard covered, CPU covered, GPU covered, RAM. Go with a more trusted brand of RAM. So, like the big names like Corsair, Hyper Fury, and there's a few different others that I can't remember off the top of my head. Kingston, I'm pretty sure Kingston does RAM. So what you're going to want to get is a 3600 megahertz one, and like there are many variations of the 3600 series. Go for a trusted well-known brand, that's what I would recommend, because they've been in the industry for a long time, and if you can get warranty, get warranty. Just in case anything bad happens to it. So when it comes to getting RAM, if you're on a budget, avoid ones with RGBs, avoid getting the more expensive ones, which are just ridiculously more expensive just because it looks fancy, just because it has RGB lights on it, just because like it's got a thicker like aluminum platinum bezel. Avoid that sort of stuff. Just go simple and plain or normal and you should be fine. So moving on, next is power supplies. You can get a modular or a full modular. A modular is pretty much, it comes with all the cables just connected already inside the power supply, so it looks a bit ugly but it's cheaper. And then you got a full modular. You can connect all the power connectors for whatever you want, whether it be SATA, CPU cable, graphics card cable, hard drives, 24-pin connector, that sort of stuff. You can connect what you need, then everything else you can just put in the box, so it looks nice and clean. but it comes at a bit of more price. So choose what you're willing to sacrifice money wise. If you want to look better, go for a full modular, and if you on a tighter budget, just go for a half modular power supply. And depends on what you're buying. Once again, remember that you need to look at what you have and be like, okay, well, I need a 800 watt power supply, or I have a kind of lower build, so I only need a 700 watt power supply. But just make sure you have enough power to your system. So when it comes to hard drives and stuff, if you're just doing gaming, I don't really recommend getting a hard drive because it's kind of pointless. And then you got PCIe Express SSDs or M.2 SSDs. I don't recommend them because they're more on the expensive side. They're really good. They're really good. My dad has one, and whew, I'm super jealous. But I've only got the standard SSDs, which just connect by SATA cable. So SATA cable SSDs, you can just get away with. They do just fine. Sorry, I'm itchy. I don't know why. Anyway, just get a, let's say, to put your Windows 10 on it and to store some games and all your necessity stuff like Chrome and I don't know, you got schoolwork I suppose, or work stuff. I just recommend getting probably a 1 terabyte these days, because these days some games are so big in their file size, like it's unbelievable. Like Call of Duty, what is it? Modern Warfare. That's like my whole 250 gig SSD, which is crazy. I literally have to get a new SSD because it's just taking up all of it. So I don't know if you're using big filed games or not, so it's not really for me to know or understand or tell. So I just recommend going all in on a 1 terabyte SSD, and you should have way more than enough to store multiple games, your OS, and all of those other fundamental things like your Chrome, and let's say you want to save pictures on your computer from your phone or whatever, or something like that. But yeah, 1 terabyte SSD, done and done. Don't buy a hard drive, don't buy M.2 SSD, and that's that. So for coolers with AMD, if you're on a budget, just stick with a stock cooler. Don't bother about overclocking. It's complicated. I don't really understand it myself. Neither have I taken the time to actually understand it. But if you're going with the Intel like 10 for upcoming 11th gen, you're probably not going to get a CPU cooler, which is kind of sucks because you're paying a lot of money for a CPU and you don't get a cooler now. And meanwhile with AMD, if you buy a cooler, you get a CPU cooler. But besides the point, for a CPU cooler for an Intel chip, you can look at your budget. The Corsair Hyper 212s or ones similar to that, they're probably like $120 I think now, and it's kind of a pain to put on, but once it's on sort of thing, so then you don't have to worry about it. So just get something like a Hyper 212, $100 and something I think, and then you should be good. Don't bother going for the fancy dancy like be silent coolers, which are more expensive. They're really nice because they're so silent. And I don't know which cooler my dad got, but it's got the Noctua fans, and like it's gigantic, but it's expensive. But besides the point, you don't need something like that. And needs overclocking, which in case you're not. So just getting a cheaper cooler, CPU cooler for your Intel chip, you should be fine. What else haven't we covered? So we've done RAM, we've done power supply, we've done motherboard, we've done GPU, we've done SSD, we've done CPU cooler. Case. As for your case, depending on what you want to build, you can get a good case for like 100 and maybe 20 Australian dollars. My case is the Fractal Design R5. I got it specifically because it's got the foam padding that just dampens like the noise inside the machine. I don't know how much I picked that up for. It's probably maybe like $180, which isn't too bad because I love this case. It's a mid-tower size case. You can't really see it from there, but it's a good case. It fits everything I need, not too big. Then you got smaller cases, like the square cases, and then you got smaller cases than that, which is, I believe it's I forgot the technical term, but it's like a micro case. Then, no, micro tower. Then you got the massive cases, which is like a full tower, which is what my dad got. I think it's a bit big, but some people like that, so it's totally up to them. But I like mid-tower size cases. They fit everything fine, they're not too big, but it's up to you what you want to get. And depending on the brand that you choose, and depending on its features, you can get some good cases for like $120, $130. So, other than that, you're going to want to need a monitor. So if you're starting off, don't get a fully dancy-prancy monitor. Just get a cheap $80 monitor, right? Because, like, you're on a budget. So just get a cheap $80 monitor, than like an Acer one. It does 1080p, 60 hertz per second. My camera just shut off. How dare I? Girl. So as I was saying, just get a cheap monitor. $80. Start with that. Save up some money if you want a better monitor. Then go forward from there. Then use the Acer monitor that you got, and just go forward from there. That's your Acer monitor has become your second monitor. Once you go 2 monitors, you never ever go back. So, anyway, as for a mouse and keyboard, just get a $30 keyboard. Get what's that cheap brand? SteelSeries. Get a SteelSeries keyboard. Get a SteelSeries mouse. They're cheap. I don't know how cheap, but I'm gonna throw it up on screen somewhere. But they're cheap. Just throw that in, and other than that, like, you might need headphones. You can get OK ones for $30. Speakers, you can also get OK ones for $30. I don't know if you want speakers or headphones. I like headphones. Some people don't like headphones. Some people like speakers. Some people don't like speakers. It's totally up to you. But no, other than that, that pretty much gives you I suppose a guide of what you do and don't need. You don't need the fancy stuff like I got. My stuff is expensive. It's not a budget. I got a like $150 camera. I got a $300 monitor. I got a monitor that I got from a friend. Thank you for him. But I used to have that $80 Acer monitor that I mentioned before. I got like a combined like compressor and microphone, $500. Stuff that is in my case probably worth, let's say, $2,000. All up, it's nearly $3,000. You don't need that. $1,000, you'd be fine. And when I say 3,000 and 1,000, I'm talking about Australian dollars. Just making it very clear. And ignore my hair because I just noticed how silly it looks. It's having a bad day, I suppose. But any comments or any questions like that, feel free to drop it below. If you got any questions about a build you're trying to think of doing, or you need help with a build, I can try and provide my input as much as I can. But other than that, any questions whatsoever, just drop them down below. And other than that, I have socials. You can check out my Twitter, my Instagram, and my Twitch. That will be all on screen, as well as a link below in the description. But other than that, remember to smash like on this video, as well as subscribe to the channel, as well as tap the notification bell to know when my next video is live. We are actually very close to 150 subscribers now. I believe now we're at 135. I'm trying to produce more videos because I've been extremely procrastinating, which is kind of funny because I'm making a video on how to stop procrastination on my other Brandon BlazeTech channel, which is tips. I truly believe in the tips I'm giving, but I have a very procrastinating brain, and yeah, I'm kind of like a perfectionist, which is not good. Not beside the point. I'm not going to talk about that here because that doesn't concern you. But if you want to check that channel out, just type in Brandon BlazeTech. I'll leave it on screen somewhere, and you can really talk about business and self-improvement and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna stop babbling. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'm gonna try and pump out more content. Bye.